دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافعان خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار آزمون به توی دروازه سردار آزمون گل به نام آزمون و برای ایران
بزنه کریم انصاری گل توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد
علی دایی صاحب توپ توی دروازه
گل اشتباه حرکت از کوچان نژاد فرصت برای کوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Welcome back to another episode of Gol Bezan. I'm really excited to be joined by Arya and Pezhman. Today we're going to talk about the Iran-Hong Kong game. Iran won 3-1. Talk about, and also preview the game against Bahrain coming up. So, how you two doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, good, Sina. I'm glad to be back on Gol Bezan. I just want to quickly just say thanks for all the support that we've been receiving these past few weeks. It's much appreciated. Those that were present in the Twitter spaces for the Hong Kong game before and after the match, appreciate your time. And obviously that's really, it seems like it's quite successful, so we'll keep doing that for matches. And yeah,
you guys really seem to enjoy it, so that's something that we're definitely going to carry on doing, both before the matches and also after the matches, because you guys really enjoy them. So thanks so much for the support there. Also, while you're at it, subscribe to us on YouTube. The comment section on those are the best ways to kind of communicate with us, kind of get the conversation going. So thanks so much for all of that support. But I guess let's go into the episode straight away, guys, because I'm really keen to get the conversation going with this game. Obviously, I think before we kind of talk about analysis, it was a 3-1 victory. Your kind of thoughts on it, Pezhman, as a whole for the game?
One word, and that's disappointment. All in all, I think it was a poor performance from Iran, a bit arrogant, and it was struggling for me to even watch this game. I'm just glad that Iran got 3 points, because that was how, in my opinion, how bad the performance was, that we should be happy that Iran got 3 points.
Yeah, I completely agree. Arya, before I come to you, like the lineup that we had, it was pretty much our best team, I would say. Like, I mean, we had pretty much like our best team. I don't really see any weaknesses there. And obviously our subs were pretty strong as well. So like, obviously we got the 3 points, as Pezhman said. That's the most important thing. But I don't know, do you kind of share in the disappointment?
Look, you're right. I mean, obviously for this game, Purali Ganji was injured. So I think he would have started if he wasn't. But other than that, the other surprise was Vahid Amiri at left back, but Milad had a bit of an injury coming into the game. He came on at the second half. So other than that, it was not really surprising, the lineup. The performance, though, although we won the game, we shouldn't be conceding a goal against Hong Kong. First and foremost, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. For me, conceding a goal against Hong Kong is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And then on top of that, the first half performance, I was saying in the Twitter space for those that were there, I did feel like we kept the ball well, which is obviously really good for possession stats and all that. But when you're playing against Hong Kong, you don't want to just keep possession. You want to be able to actually show your dominance on a team that's clearly weaker than you, even if they're sitting back and defending and they're flooding the box and not letting passes into the strikers. I understand that. That's what everyone's argument is. Yeah, Osman and Taremi couldn't get the ball, but ultimately they didn't work hard enough. Osman and Taremi were too lazy. They're playing back heels to each other on the 6-yard box. What are you doing? Like, why are you playing back heels? There were so many opportunities for them to shoot, to get rebounds, to combine with the wingers. Qualifiers. I mean, look at Qualifiers. I mean, Qualifiers' performance just shows you that they could have done better. His performance alone showed that people weren't trying, because he was the only one really trying, in my opinion, to make things happen. Javanbakhsh coming into midfield, keeping the ball. It's not enough for me. It's not enough. Against Hong Kong, you should be doing more, as far as I'm concerned. I understand. Again, I do sympathise. The pitch was absolutely horrendous, and I do understand that that's difficult to play on. But I don't sympathise with players who don't work hard. You know, I don't care how good they are. You know, so yeah, I expected better.
I completely agree with you. This is where I kind of see it, is that as you said, this is pretty much our best team apart from Purali Ganji. But I think this is the thing. Individually, especially in the first half, I thought players were not bad. So Gholizadeh was pretty good. I thought Moharami was actually quite good going from fullback. He was attacking pretty well. But as a team, it was like these guys have never played before. Like, there were passes not being completed, simple passes, communication. There was a point where in the game, in midfield, there was 3 people kind of shouting for each other to get the ball. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember which players it were. And then the Hong Kong player just stole the ball. I was like, this is such a farce. Like, how have we got to this point where, this is pretty much the same team, more or less, that we've been playing for a long time. Like, these people should be able to, and as well, a lot of them have been playing since youth level. They should be able to communicate with each other much better than this. It was such a joke at that point. Like, we were just losing the ball so easily.
Yeah, I agree with you that the lack of communication could be seen from the TV. And what's more interesting, as you said, it was Iran's probably strongest team, and I think nobody really could say anything about who should start and who shouldn't. I think we all agree that there was the best players started, simple as that. But one thing that concerned me, and this is like, no matter what coach Iran has, Kairosh, Afshin Qotbi, it doesn't matter. We went back to the same old habits when Iran plays against weaker teams that usually park the bus. And to be honest, I don't think Hong Kong did it that much. Iran tend to get down in speed and tempo. So Hong Kong didn't have any problems, to be honest, to defend. The only times Iran actually was able to do something, it was due to the lack of, I would say, experience from Hong Kong, and not that the Iranian players were too fast or that they couldn't manage the Iranians. So we've seen this in plenty of Iran games. Iran usually plays better against stronger opponents, but that excuse, in my opinion, can no longer be used due to the quality of the Iran team. And maybe everything would be looking different if Iran had scored that early goal that was coming. It looked like it was coming, an early goal in the first 10-15 minutes. Then maybe the players could act a bit more relaxed, trust each other, trust the plan, the system, the coach. So I think it was really good that Iran had to play against Hong Kong and not Bahrain in the first game, or even Iraq, because against better opponents like Bahrain and Iraq, who would have been more ready, they would have punished Iran. And that's due to Iran's ignorance and not to the Iraqi or the Bahraini strengths, because in my opinion, Iran have probably one of the best, if not the best, squads in entire Asia at the moment. But we struggled against Hong Kong, and that's why we are concerned at where is Iran at this moment. Nobody knows. And I think after the Bahrain game, we know if they have learned their lesson on what they need to do and how they need to change everything. Because as you said something quite interesting, like they acted like they didn't know each other, they didn't play with each other, and that's kind of true. There haven't been a real camp for Team Melli in that matter. They have like 2 or 3 trainings. They come from different parts of the world, and they need some time to adjust, to relax. Salman Qudus, who actually I didn't expect him to play, he came in like 24 hours before kickoff or something like that. So it's hard to manage a team. I think that's maybe Javanbakhsh's hardest task at the moment. And I think against Bahrain, he needs to prove himself that he's the coach that the federation expects him to be.
Yeah, I think if maybe yeah, I was a bit too harsh because a lot of the players obviously been playing around the world and they didn't have enough time. But at the same time, if I was Bahrain, I'd be looking at that game and saying, wow, we actually stand a really good chance of topping the table in the same group as Iran, because like we're at home and we could get some vital points from them, because all the sort of goals, the 3 goals that we scored, they weren't really, apart from, you could say, the Gholizadeh one to Ansari Fard, the last goal, they were all kind of lucky ones, or like they were just individual brilliance more so. It wasn't a team goal. It wasn't a chance created. I don't even think we created a solid chance apart from the last goal. So that's the worrying aspect for me. What do you think?
Yeah,
Arya?
I think someone asked a very good question on Twitter Space. They asked a question regarding the midfield. For me, I would agree that Saeed and Ahmad are 2 of our best midfielders, especially in this squad. However, I'm not entirely sure if they work as a pairing the way that Skocic wants them to. I think he was expecting one of them to be like a more advanced player, and one of them to sit back and defend. But they were quite narrow. They were staying quite close to each other and just playing passes, and there was no penetrating runs, there were no penetrating, so nothing going forward. It's always sideways. So I think from that regard, someone asked the question, should we be playing a 3-man midfield? And I would say yes, because what happened was in the second half, I don't know if you all noticed, when Salman Ghoddos came on, and Saeed actually went off, Ahmad Nourallahi went to defensive midfield, and I think he also brought Milad Mohammadi on. He went to left back, and he had midfield 3 of Nourallahi, Ghoddos and Amiri, and Torabi was left wing, Gholizadeh was right wing, and then just for a period of time, there was obviously one striker. But in fact, so Gholizadeh went off. I think Rezai went to like right wing. I think it was like answer. So you played a 4-3-3. Was what I'm trying to say. And in that period, what happened was the midfielders of Hong Kong were more attracted to the middle of the pitch, and that opened up the wide areas. And that's when you saw Torabi take on his fullback and get the cross for Ansari Fard. So, long story short, I do think that the way Skocic wants to play, it's better for him to have a midfield 3, because it's much easier to flood the middle of the pitch and create more space in the wide areas. But it's the question of who plays. Are you going to put Taremi as a left winger? If you play a 4-3-3, you'll have to do that. Or are you going to play a diamond midfield as he has been doing the last few friendlies? You're going to play Gholizadeh as a number 10, maybe Ghoddos as like a number 8. But then are you asking too much of your fullbacks? As to be like the wingers in the team. So for me, it's like he's kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit playing a 4-4-2, because I don't think he got what he wanted from the players. Necessarily. So he'll have to do. I think he'll either need to change it for the Bahrain game, or he'll have to go with the same approach, but make sure the players are taking risks. Because I felt they were too timid against Hong Kong. They were too timid to take risks, and you can't do that. You can't be timid. You can't be shy. You have to be able to take risks and attack the game as much as you can. Only Gholizadeh really did that the whole game. So for me, it goes back to the training pitch and what he wants to achieve against Bahrain.
It's quite interesting, the tactics, because at the beginning, especially in the first half, it seems as though the tactics was, as you said, but also with the fullbacks advancing very heavily. I felt like he was really trying to overload the wings with a lot of overlaps or underlaps. And it was working for a little bit, but I felt like Hong Kong really learnt from that and then packed the sort of defense, and then those kind of the fullbacks were nullified. And then from there, we didn't really know what to do, because if you looked at the game, the first sort of 10 minutes was actually pretty positive. I was like, wow, we're playing pretty well, I thought. But I felt like Hong Kong really adapted pretty quickly to the advancing fullbacks, and then we didn't really know what to do from there.
They got wise to it. They got wise to that tactic. I understand what he was trying to do, Skocic, but he very much, and I don't know if it's something that he worked on in the game or in the training ground, he very much said to his players, look, make sure you don't concede goals and make sure you score as much as you can. But ultimately, if you if you take risks against Hong Kong, how many times are they going to score? I know they scored a goal against us, but how many times are they actually going to score the goal? Not much. They're not going to go up the other end and finish all their chances off. So in my opinion, Skocic should have said to his players, look, don't worry about them countering you. Go out there and put the pressure on the game. Put your foot on the accelerator and really put them under pressure, because a lot of the time it seemed like they were just ghosting through the game, and it almost seemed like Taremi especially was looking for excuses. The referee isn't giving me a penalty. Oh, the pitch is bad. Oh, this pass is too long. Oh, I can't run on this pitch. It's too warm. Listen, man, get your hands out your pockets, man, and just start playing. Like, I just found it so annoying how, like, you can just tell he wanted to have an excuse for everything that went wrong in the game. And for a guy of his quality, it really annoys me to see that attitude. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but personally, I just thought he was very negative throughout the whole game.
We've obviously talked quite negatively about performances, individual performances, and team performances, but did you kind of see any pros? Did you see any positives that we can take out of that game? Obviously, again, we got the 3 points. That's the most important thing. But yeah, did you see any positives that we can take?
Yeah, that we still have our super sub in Karim Sarifard. He's a decent goal scorer, and that we have a strong bench. The players that came in did their impact and showed the coach that they want to play from start the next game. To be honest, I also was quite surprised by Moharami. I know he's a good player. It's not that, but he's been injured a lot this season and he haven't played that much. So playing him from start was maybe a risk, or maybe trying to rest Milad Mohammadi. I don't know, but he did okay. I think he deserves to be in the talks about who should start on that side. And I do believe that Said Ezzatullahi is a man that always should start. He got a nice touch, and he's been playing constantly in Denmark, which is really important for his career and at this moment. So yeah, I think individually there were some hot takes, but as you said, as a team, I think Iran needs to do better. But yeah, individually, I think there were some good players against Hong Kong.
What did you see, Arya, in terms of, I guess, tactically? I feel like this might be quite a good learning curve for both the team and Skocic as to what works, what doesn't work. He also learns like the strengths of the players. Do you feel like tactically this was like probably a good step for learning perspective as a team?
Yeah, I mean, this is the third formation he's played for Iran. He's played a diamond midfield, he's played a back three, and now he's played a 4-4-2. So he's played a lot of formations. He's kind of adapted it here and there. And it could be useful for him going forward should he stay on as national team head coach. Obviously, you want to find your best team. You want to find your best tactic, your best formation as quickly as you can. That's one of the reasons why, again, I don't want to be too critical of Skocic, because he's a young coach, by all means, and I know he's not coached a national team before, and he hasn't really done anything wrong up till now. He's actually been fine, more than really what we need just now as a national team coach. However, I will say that, as I said before, I don't think he quite understands what it means to be a national team coach. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't think he quite understands it yet, because there's so much more to just having adaptable tactics. You have to be able to actually implement them correctly for the match. I think he just wants to show that he's got a variety of skills as a coach. And that's all good, but you need to then go and implement it the right way. Like, you played a 4-4-2 against Hong Kong. It didn't really work, and he had to go back to the 4-3-3. And for me, it's like, that's a bit worrying. If it doesn't work against Hong Kong, is it going to work against Bahrain? So that's a bit worrying for me. Is he still a club coach? That's my kind of question. I don't really know if he's got the sort of I don't want to use a bad word, but I don't think he has the balls to go out there and really show what he's made of as a coach. I think he's still trying to just prove himself to the Iranian fans.
What do you think went wrong? I know you spoke about it a bit before, Arya, but like specifically with the tactics, what should he have done better? Like, because obviously if Hong Kong, as we saw, they were literally putting 10 men behind the ball. They had one striker up front. Poor guy was like, obviously he was there for the counter-attacks, but whenever he got the ball, he was crowded out by the midfielders and centre-backs. So like, there was no point of him being there really. But when Iran, and it's quite rare that Iran faces that, usually we're on the opposite end, we're actually defending that way. What do you kind of do in that instance?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to go on for ages. I know people listen to this and like, okay, Arya, shut up. But it's just the case of, look, how many sideways passes did we actually play? We played a million sideways passes. There's no need for it. And I understand all you want to do is win the game. You don't want to lose it. You're not going to lose against Hong Kong, right? Even if you're playing a League 2 side, they'll still beat Hong Kong. I'm saying that with all due respect. So, in my opinion, there's no tactics involved in this game. Just go on and be a bit more positive. Like, stop just trying to keep the ball. There's no need for it. I understand you don't want to lose your energy. There's a game against Bahrain coming up, but they didn't show enough, and ultimately they conceded the goal. And like tactically, there's nothing I can really add to that because it's a game against Hong Kong. How are you gonna be like extra tactical against Hong Kong? There's nothing you can do. You just need to go win the game. But it's the mentality of the players. They're too negative. And the question is that the coach's fault? Is he saying to them, I want you to be a bit more negative in your approach? Not that, but I want you to be keeping the ball a bit more rather than being too aggressive in the attacking, in the final third. Is that the case? I don't know. Were the players too nervous? Possibly. But whatever it was, I just felt they were too lazy in the final third. Osman Taremi, for me, just far too lazy.
I felt like as well that a lot of especially the midfielders, they were kind of taking too many touches of the ball. When they received the ball, they'd take one touch obviously to control, then another touch just to kind of see what's around them, then maybe a third touch, and then they would pass it. And it's like you need to do like first time or second time passes, just to move the ball quickly to get a bit of space in behind the Hong Kong defense. But we were just holding onto the ball for too long. We weren't moving it fast enough. So Pezhman, we're going to move on to the Bahrain game now. What needs to change for the Bahrain game? This is way more important, the Bahrain game. They're a lot stronger than Hong Kong. They're at home, which is probably, well, I don't know how vital it is, but they are stronger than Hong Kong for sure. What needs to change?
That's a good question. I think they need to, first of all, they're actually playing on the better pitch, which can be useful for Iran, to be honest. But what needs to be changed, I would say that the speed of the Iranians should be much more faster. I think they should, even if they want to control the game and be very tactical, they should go for that early goal, because a draw would favor probably Bahrain more than it will favor Iran, because then if we go to the, as we say in Persian, agaro amma, what ifs, and we don't want that. A win against Bahrain will make Iran's journey to the next stage a bit more easier. Still not certain, but at least easier. So an early goal will put Bahrain in a situation where they need to attack, where they need to open up. There will be some spaces, maybe behind the back four. The time wasting that they're famous for will probably not be used. Well, they won't have any use for that. But and that's the scenario. And let's say that it doesn't happen. It's like 0-0 until like the 60th or 70th minute. Then it's really important for the coach to bring his A game, and that's what Queiroz was a master, in my opinion. Like the difference between the first and second half of if Iran didn't have a good first half was vital. You could see that Iran was a different team, and they changed the tactics of the systems of the players that made Iran get that 3 points. And I think Skocic does have those abilities to at least have those players to change games. So if Iran is not able to do something with the original game plan, then the substitutions will be very crucial and important for Iran to change whatever needs to be changed and make sure that they get those chances to score and hopefully actually win the game. So yeah, that's my answer.
I think this is a must-win game. Personally, I know you mentioned that we can maybe drop points, so maybe. I mean, we could still qualify. It'll be a lot harder, but I feel like this is a must-win game. If we don't win it, I will struggle to see us actually like qualifying, especially with the rule with North Korea dropping out. I'd love if one of you guys could explain that maybe towards the end of the episode, because I don't quite understand it. I feel like some other people might not understand it. But Arya, I guess with the lineup against Hong Kong, how do you kind of see the lineup changing or staying the same? What tactics are going to change for this game against Bahrain? Obviously, their playing style is completely different to Hong Kong. So how do you see it? How do you see the lineup changing?
I don't see it changing much, to be honest. I think Purali Ganji will come back in for sure. The goal we conceded against Hong Kong, you could say it was probably Khalilzadeh's fault. But I don't really think he'll be taken out of the team. I think maybe Kanani will. I don't know if Minad Mahamadi will start. I kind of actually liked how Bainamini played against Hong Kong. I think he will start left back again. I'd be surprised if he isn't starting there. And other than that, I don't really see any other changes unless he brings in Hoi Safi, Ehsan Carlos. Other than that, I don't think any lineup changes. I think the formation was fine. It's just the attitude of the players. Can you get them to be a bit more positive? However, against Bahrain, it's very important that we don't concede any goals. We can't afford to put ourselves in a situation where we have to come back into the game. Because if that happens, I just don't see it happen. I don't see us being able to get back in. The good thing is we're going to be playing on a better pitch this time, so that'll be in our favour a little bit more because we'll be able to play some football for once. And then on top of that, I think we need to get players like Qualifiers into the game. We need to see Sadar Osman and Taremi do much better than they did against Hong Kong. And that's it, go out there and win the game. You've got one job to do. It's one of the biggest games of Iranian national teams, this kind of era that we're bringing up under Skocic, so we have to go out there and prove it. And yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. One thing I really want to just quickly point out, I'm happy with the national team doing well and performing, but on top of everything on the pitch, off the pitch, we need to do better. Me and Pezhman were speaking about the commentary by Khiabani. It's not good enough. Like, I understand that he's one of the most popular guys in Iran for commentary, but it's just not good enough.
Arya, for people who don't know, do you mind just explaining it a bit?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'll let Pezhman explain. He wasn't one. I was listening to it. I was watching the game in the Hong Kong Chinese commentary, so it wasn't really.
Yeah, I was too, so I was listening to it in Chinese.
Pezhman, you tell us why he was so awful.
Yeah, and I will say it very short. First of all, I mean, Khiabani, I think he wants to be like the people's voice, the guy on the street, or the girl, watching home and talking directly to the TV. Goal! No! He wants to be that guy, and at the same time, he wants to be like a supporter for the national team. And it's always hard to be too biased when you're a commentator. Of course, I mean, if you're the Iranian commentator in an Iran game, you tend to maybe have some support for the national team, but as a commentator, you have to be more professional when you speak. You have to know when not to speak as well.
Why your team in World Cup? No.
And in my opinion, Khiabani always have had this problem of not speaking, not talking about relevant stuff, or saying stuff that's really, really obvious, that makes things annoying. It's like, in radio, you can't be quiet, at least not for long. And he thinks maybe like this is radio. So when there's nothing happening and he wants to talk about something, he just over explains the situation or whatever is happening. It becomes like a it becomes like a comedy, but more like a tragedy, to be honest. And I remember one of the things he said in one game. He was like, I don't know, this was way back. It was like in Persian, yeah, the game is 2-2, which is a draw. And both teams have scored 2 goals each. He keeps talking like that all the time, and he kills the game because he's so biased. He doesn't see the game for what it actually is, or it takes much, much, much longer time for him to admit that maybe something isn't good enough, and that's also disrespectful against Hong Kong or whoever Iran is playing against. Even if Iran have a bad history against Bahrain, we need to be professional as supporters, or at least as media needs to be professional in that matter, because that's their job. Their job isn't to be cheerleaders. We have that already. Their job isn't to be supporters.
We've criticized
listen to
him
Chinese or Arabic commentators if he's talking next time.
We've criticized him a lot, and I remember one time he was doing a video. It was like a little segment on his show on Carlos Queiroz saying something about Iranians being poor or whatever it was, and he just starts to cry. I'm like, you're a grown man. Like, I understand you want to defend your country, but it's embarrassing. Like, he knows deep down that Queiroz never said anything like that, or it was taken out of context. But because he wants to seem like he wants to be, the Gary Lineker of Iranian football, for him, he thinks he has to go over and beyond in his approach to commentary.
Goal! No!
For me, and I'm not saying I don't know him as a individual. I'm not speaking towards his character, but for me, it just seems pathetic, absolutely pathetic. You have an opportunity to broadcast football to 80 million people, potentially even more than that, and you're doing it as if it's a joke. It's not good enough. So I don't know what we'll see happen in the future. It's the same goes for like people like Misari. And again, I don't want to be too critical of people that I don't know personally, but it's just not good enough. Like, we try to do our best on Goal Bezan. We don't make it. It's just completely non-profit, and I'm not trying to, make our platform seem like we're amazing. We're not at all, but at least, we do our best. I don't think they do their best as far as I'm concerned. So.
Okay, thanks guys. I think let's wrap it back to the Iran-Bahrain game, just so we can wrap up the episode. Firstly, how important is this game? And secondly, what are your predictions for the game? I'll start with you, Pejman.
This is Iran's most important game since the semi-final in Asian Cup 2019, in my opinion. If Iran doesn't win this game, it means Iran will miss the World Cup 2022, 100%. And that's a waste of talent for this amazing squad that we actually have. We have so much good players that some players that with Qaidi and Sayyad Manesh, those young players, maybe they can be in the squad in the World Cups go out next year. But if we can't manage to beat Bahrain, we have put ourselves in a situation there where we have to beat two teams that we lost against last year. So if Iran doesn't manage to change that and become victorious, then we have a big problem, because a lot of good players that will probably get more European eyes on them will get lost, and we will see a decline in Iranian football, because we need that European, the international shine. And I say Iran wins 6-0. I just want to say that.
6-0. Okay. What about you, Arya?
Jeez. Give me whatever you've eaten today, Pezhman. Yeah. No, I think we'll win the game. I do think we can win the game. I think because I feel like Bahrain will try and attack the game more than Hong Kong did, and I think Sardar and Mehtar and me will have more space in that final third. I think we'll win the game 2-1. I think we'll concede a goal. I just don't think we have the defense we had under Queiroz, but I think we can easily win the game if Skocic really wants to see his team attack, because we have to, so as far as I'm concerned. I think we can win the game 2-1.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think 2-1 for me as well. I feel like we will concede a goal. I feel like it will be 1-1 for a long time, until maybe the 75th or 80th minute, where we score maybe a header from a corner or something. I feel like, because from the Hong Kong game, we didn't create many chances, so I feel like it will probably be dragged out until the final few minutes, until we get our goal. But it'll probably be an exciting watch. I want to ask you guys quickly, if Iran loses or draws this game, what does that mean? Like, do we still have a chance of qualifying? Just so people know, what's the kind of rule with the North Korea thing dropping out, like with the second or third place? How does that work, basically?
Should I tell it, Pezhman?
Yeah, you can tell.
Right.
I know as well, but I will listen because I like your Scottish accent.
Well, in the groups, the sorting mechanism that they're using is very much goal difference. So if they do have level points, then it goes to goal difference, and then it goes to goals for, and then it goes to head to head. So if Iran finish second out of, I think it's out of 8 or 9 groups, only the top 5 second place teams go up, and also the first place teams and all the first place teams. So what will happen is they'll go up, and I think 3 or 4 will be left behind. Now that all comes down to goal difference, because a lot of them will have the same amount of points. What's happened is now, though, North Korea have pulled out from the competition, which means that all the teams that finish 4th, their goal difference will now be stripped away for the teams that they played against. So Iran scored 14 goals against Cambodia. If Iran, by the way, this is only if Iran finish second. If they finish first, obviously they go straight up. If they finish second and Cambodia finish 4th, which they probably will, in that scenario,
Fifth.
Sorry. If Cambodia finish 5th and Iran finish second, in that scenario, 14 goals will be taken away from Iran, and the goal difference will be added from these games that are playing just now. So, literally, it could be very little.
Even more goals probably, because Iran will play against Hong Kong, Cambodia on Friday.
Yeah, so there'll be more goals taken away from them. This is why it was a big shame we didn't score more against Hong Kong. This is why I was quite upset, because 3 goals, actually we only get 2 goals now because they scored a goal. So it's really little. So it's a big problem for us. I think we're actually on -1 goal difference now, if I'm not mistaken.
That's because the Cambodia goal difference basically is wiped out.
Completely wiped, and obviously No, actually, it would be lower than -1. It would be much lower because we obviously conceded like 4 goals against. I can't remember. I don't know. We'll be less than -1. I'm sure about that. So basically, long story short, it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess, Sina. So I hope I explained it right. I don't know. Did I miss anything out, Pezhman?
I think you're wrong about the -1 at the moment, but that doesn't matter. If Iran draws the game, they have to win against Cambodia, which they will, and they also have to win against Iraq. That's the last game of the group.
And the fact that I mean, just very quickly, I know we're going to finish, but the fact that we're even saying all this, maybe a draw against Iraq. I mean, we have another round of qualifiers to go. We might even face Japan and Australia and South Korea. Like, for goodness sake, man, this team need to get their fingers out because it's not good enough. It really isn't good enough. Like, this is, I mean, like, there's a quote on Twitter from Irfan, one of our followers, and it was like when Queiroz joined Iran, 80 million people were afraid of losing to Bahrain. Like, now we're afraid of losing to Bahrain again. It's crazy how we've gone so backwards over like a couple of years.
What makes it worse is that our players are better now. That makes it worse.
Yeah. In all defense, we can blame Wilmot, but I do believe that Iran got the toughest opponents possible from pot 2 and 3. Like that group A is like Syria, China, Philippines. Though I think none of those teams will have an easy games against Iraq and Bahrain will probably be favorites in that group, and Iran as well. So all those 3 teams, in my opinion, are much better than these 3 teams. And 3, if I'm not mistaken, they're better than Syria, in my opinion. I think that they're better than China, and they're better than Maldives. And I'm not looking for excuses. I'm just saying how it is.
Before we move on to fan questions, Arya, remind people when the game is.
The game's on Monday. It's at 5:30 p.m. UK time. So yeah, fan questions. There's one from Conscious Flesh. He asks, were there any tactical or organizational improvements to this match compared to the match versus Hong Kong when Wilmot was in charge? It's a good question, actually. I don't want to dwell on it too much. It was a long time ago, but I was saying this before on the Twitter space that the last game we played against Hong Kong, that was actually Desjardins' last game for the national team. And it was actually Javanbakhsh's last game for the national team as well before this last Hong Kong game. So, we didn't have Zadeh, we didn't have Moharami, we didn't have Khalilzadeh, Izzatullahi. Taremi was injured in that game, if you remember. We had a lot of players missing from that game, and obviously we didn't have like Qayyadi and all these kind of players on the bench. So definitely better as a squad and the selection of players, but tactically, I mean, I didn't see much of a difference, to be honest. I thought we were worse, if I'm honest with you, in this game than we were in Hong Kong. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. We can go next fan question.
Yeah. Next fan question. There's one here. Should Obizadeh start? No, I wouldn't say so. I think Bezan should start personally.
I mean, we've talked about it a lot before. They're both top quality goalkeepers.
I mean, they can both start. I won't
complain either way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a complaint either way. Should we switch to a 4-3-3? I would say potentially, but I don't know if Taremi playing out wide is the right thing to do anymore. I don't think he has the pace for it, like he used to have. But I mean, it's difficult to say. I don't really know. I'm not the national team head coach. All I know is we need to go out there and win the game. That's all I care about as far as I'm concerned. I don't care how we play or how we set up. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see Osman and Taremi playing together as strikers, not Taremi going on the wing. as for the actual combination of them, how it would work, because I felt like obviously like they struggled to get the ball against the Hong Kong game. So yeah, I think that kind of needs to be ironed out as to how they can work best together. Whether one drops a bit further down or one goes into the box more, I don't know. Like they need to refine that, because I feel like they're both obviously top quality strikers, probably like top 20 or top 30 in Europe. Like I feel like we forget how good they are sometimes. We need to make them, play together like in the best way.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, sweet. I think we can wrap it up there. So if you did make it this far, thank you so much for listening. Take a little photo or screenshot of you listening to the episode. I know I've seen quite a few of those, especially from Erfan, taking photos with Horma Sabzi and listening to Gol Bezan, the best combo out there. So if you're listening on YouTube or like SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, anywhere, obviously subscribe to us while you're there, but also take a screenshot or a photo and we'll retweet it on our Twitter at Gol Bezan. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much, Arya and Pezhman, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Do.
Iran.
Hello everyone, my name is Saeed Azatollah and you're listening to the Gol Bezan podcast.